Hey everybody, this is James, Strategic Business Manager at LoveAdmin, and you're listening to the Guided Growth Podcast, where we'll be taking you through the basics of growing your children's activity organisation with real insights and real actions you can apply to your organisation. So in today's episode, we're talking about how to get your admin set up and your administrators working for you. We're with Lee Reid, owner and founder of Swim School UK, who's taken a shipping container and an industrial unit and turned it into a hugely successful swim school. We'll discuss how giving your administrators a clear job description and structure can free up your mind to focus on growth. Lee, thanks for joining us. Great to have you back on the podcast again. For those of you who didn't hear episode 1, it'd be great to get a little introduction on Swim School UK, how it all started and where you are now.
Hi James, thank you. So I've been swimming teaching since I was about 17 years old. I did Camp America when I was 19. I set up my own swim school when I graduated uni. I've been doing that now more than 30 years. It's scary. And worked out of hotels and leisure club pools and the like. And just decided after COVID I needed my own thing. So that's when we came up with the idea of the shipping container. Nicola and I sat having lunch one day and she says, "What about this?" And it was just one of those lovely moments. Bit of lunch, bit of sunshine, glass of wine, business idea, shebang, we're off. And annoyingly, COVID got in the way at the beginning. But yeah, now we're up and running. We've got our own swimming pool, our own swim school, all completely independent.
Awesome. And I think that's such a cool story and such a great journey where your passion for the sport has now created a swim school with 600 members and a really unique proposition. And I think that's something that will be quite familiar for a lot of children's activity providers, where you've got a passion for something and you've built a business out of that passion, and now it's got to quite some scale, I have to say. So talk to me now about the challenges that you now face with keeping on top of your admin, and sort of the main problems you're facing at the moment.
I suppose the initial challenge was I've always done everything myself. So letting go, as anybody knows, is hard. To give somebody else some control over something is difficult because they're not going to do it like I did it. They're going to do it a bit their way, which is a bit scary, but is probably what's needed as well. Initially, Nicola was doing it for me, and it's hard when your partner and you're working together, and you work together and you go home together. It can work brilliantly, but it can also not be great as well. And that started to bring its own pressures in, and she needed to go and do something else, and I needed to not have to. I hope she doesn't listen. Keep putting up with her at home as well. And work.
I'm sure she'll forgive you.
Then we got somebody in, but it's hard dealing with the number of emails and the types of emails. Most people are lovely, but like I said previously, for those 100 brilliant ones, it's that one not so nice one that plays on your mind. And as an administrator, it can be a bit different because they're only dealing with those questions and answers. They're not always seeing the people behind it. So for me, some of those harsh emails that you get occasionally are softened by knowing the person and knowing, okay, I can tell they've said this, but I know this person, so they probably don't mean it quite as they're coming across. And then there's being able to place everything. An administrator's got to learn how you kind of want it answered even in the first place. What's my tone? What's my way of doing things? How strict am I, or how accommodating am I in what I do and what we've laid down as what the swim school is, the structure of it. And then booking people into classes when we were following the old system anyway. That's hard because nobody, it's me who knows what that ability is and where that's going to fit based on the personalities that are already in the group. So it's been hard finding somebody because then the next person, they didn't last very long either because it was too much for them. And now I've got somebody new in again, and unfortunately it's not worked out again right now because I chose the wrong person possibly, or I convinced the wrong person to do the role because she's into her social media, and I saw how good she was and thought, surely you can do the admin as well. it's a different role. Somebody's got to have a passion for what they do. The same way I'm into teaching and delivering what we deliver. Each role, somebody has to be passionate about that role, ideally, I think, for that to succeed.
Yeah, I think that is a really excellent point. I think there's two good points to pull out there, and certainly something for us to work through. One is finding the person that is an admin specialist, that is quite happy to go through the processes. But in order for them to be able to do that, you've got to have the processes in the first place. And I think this is a lot of where some of this can be quite overwhelming for children's activity providers, is that for a business that's based on passion, when you get to a certain scale, passion has got to sit alongside process and structure. And I think that particularly for the position you're in now, Lee, where actually we've tried a couple of different admins and it's not quite worked out. And actually, you personally hold the vast majority of the critical information around your swim school and the people that swim in it. Is how can we build a process that's going to enable someone to succeed in that role? Now, step one of that is getting the right person. And again, you can apply the same principles of process and structure to that. So do you have a job description? Of what does that job description look like? And first of all, are you clear in your mind on what do I want that person to do each week for me? And that should be a list of no more than 5 or 6 tasks. One of them, and I would imagine this will be top of everyone's list, will be answering the emails. Because I think this whole principle and this whole idea of being time poor is driven by the sheer volume of emails that we get coming in. So when you've had admins in before, Lee, would you say they had that process or structure, or was it kind of more of a ad hoc type relationship you had with them?
I suppose on reflection, it was. At the time, I thought, well, we'll sit together, we'll go through it. I'll answer them. You'll see how I like to answer them, and how to place people into groups. I think that works to some extent, but I need that process, James, of being able to, like you just said there, is all those bits in my head that I know how to jump from this to this to this. How do I get that out of my head and onto paper in some sort of systematic way?
Yeah, and I think that is a real crucial element. And the best way I've always found of doing that is to strip it back right to the real base of what you do each week. And just having a simple, and this sounds ridiculously basic, but stick with it. Have a Monday to Friday table. And each day write down firstly do it retrospectively. So after each day, write down what you did. And put a rough time on how long you spent. So you might spend 3 hours teaching. You might spend an hour answering emails. You might spend an hour setting up your camps for the next holiday period, or something like that. It doesn't need to be precise. You don't need to get the stopwatch out, but just as a rough guide. And then look at that and see, of those things, what do I have to do? An admin can't possibly do that. That needs to be me. And what on that list could feasibly someone else do if they had the knowledge to do that? And from that point, that gives you a hit list of the things where you need to delegate knowledge. And then for each one, put it as a title on the top of a blank piece of paper. And then write down everything there is to know. At first, it's going to be probably a bit of a mess, really, of just random thoughts and ideas. And 3 years ago, this happened, which means we now need to do it like this now, and all of that type of stuff. Write them all like that. Absolute mess. Just put your thoughts out onto the page. Then leave it alone for another week, and then come back to it and go, okay, or even give that nonsense to someone else who doesn't know the swim school, and go, okay, which bits out of this do you think are the most important for someone to know? Do that 2 or 3 times of working through those documents, and before you know it, you'll have built your very own processes. And I think that can quite often seem like quite an intimidating task to do, because processes is big and scary and corporate, and it's only what massive companies do, and they have these teams that create structure and process and all of this type of stuff. You can really boil that down to what you need to get out of it. And I think then when it comes to splitting up your job role, you can look at what you do in a week and go, how much of that is actually adding value to the swim school and achieving the goal that I have for this year? Because if it doesn't, then why are you doing it? Is it because it needs to be done, in which case get someone to do it and follow the process we just talked through? But if it just doesn't need to be done and you just do it because you've always done it, probably time to think about whether you should be doing it at all.
Yeah, that helps. You talking too quick there, James, for me to write it all down.
I think certainly just take that first element then.
Yeah.
Create that week's schedule and just write down what you, end of an evening, before you have your dinner, write down what you've done each day. Because I think that in and of itself will enable you to see where you're spending all of your time. If you haven't got, we're looking at starting the administration process from scratch here, really, because your current administrator is leaving. Use that to rewrite the job description for that role based on actual expectations. I think a really important part of recruitment is being transparent and realistic. The worst thing you can do is give someone a vague job description, because they're going to come in and not understand what they're actually needing to do.
I do think that's the trap I've fallen into, is I've kind of said, well, here it is. Let's do a bit together. You take over. Just ask me if you're stuck at all. And it's not enough. It's not enough. And the idea of getting all, you're going to be impressed with this, James. I've actually found a way of talking into my phone and it turns it into words. Now, for a technophobe, this is pretty good.
There you go. Perfect.
So, yeah, I like what you've just said. I can see how now I can have the phone set up, get the diction thing on, just go from there and roll those things out. And that's those pieces of headed paper then, isn't it? All sorted.
Exactly. And it's all about, and I think your thought process there is spot on. It's about finding ways where you can get that information down. And for everyone, that's not sitting with a piece of paper and spending an hour writing it all out. It could be that as you're driving home, you put the dictaphone on your phone and you just talk, because actually that's the easiest way to get all of that information out. And actually car journeys are a surprisingly effective period for reflection. I know when I was working at David Lloyd, I would always find my drive to or from work almost my most productive time, because I was alone with my thoughts and I would use that time to build my plan for the day. So use that time to reflect on what you do and build that structure for your administrator. And I think from then, that creates a job description. That means you get the right person in. The right person's going to be keen to learn. The right person's going to be invested in the success of your organization. And it's going to be sustainable. Worst thing in the world is having admins for 5 minutes and then them leaving again.
It's been difficult, that, because as much as I like this idea that we're coming up with now, there's still a strong element of me, James, that is saying, you know what, I just got to do this myself. I just got to suck that up and do it myself, because I'm fed up explaining it to more people and more people.
That is a very easy trap to fall into. And in the short term, I completely get why you're thinking that way, because it feels like such a waste of effort when you bring someone in, you think they're brilliant, they've interviewed really, really well, they feel like they get it, they're invested, then 3 months later, it's not for them, and then they decide to leave. And you've wasted all of that time, when time isn't your friend anyway, which is effectively wasted and you've got to do it over again. But in the long term, that's not going to be helpful. Because, and I know from our previous conversations that the focus is around growth and how can we actually take you from the point you've got to, and in 2 years, 3 years, double it. Let's aim for 1,000 members. Let's aim for 2 pools. Let's aim for 3 pools. Let's be really ambitious to see how far we can take this and how I can support you on that journey. But if you're still doing all of your own admin...
There's no time, is there? There's no time to focus on those exciting bits.
Exactly. That is the perfect phrase that you finished with there. As a business owner, you should be focusing on the exciting bits, and you should have the trust of your team to deliver on the day-to-day fundamentals. And I think that comes back to the point of get your recruitment right. Invest the time in picking the right person that isn't going to leave. Because in the long term, if you take it all on yourself, you won't get the growth that you want, because you'll be stuck in the weeds. You won't be able to get out of that mirth of, oh, I've had 30 emails today and 3 of them are moaning about this and 5 of them are just asking whether they're open tomorrow, and that's half an hour of my time gone. Just telling people that the classes are actually on tomorrow. Well, that's not a value-adding activity for a business owner, really.
I suppose the other disappointing thing is, though, I've paid what was more than the person was anticipating to get paid. Now me, I'm not solely motivated by money, but I don't think I'm alone in saying I want to make more. I want to make as much as possible within the time frame that I've got. And I don't understand how everybody else doesn't sort of follow that same process in their thinking. And maybe that's where I need some sort of incentives, be they that's where I get a bit lost, if I'm honest. I feel like I've done the financial incentive thing and it still hasn't quite worked. But I suppose you've hit the nail on the head in that I wasn't structured enough.
I think that's part of it. And I think also there is an element where, so your previous admin, as we discussed previously, was brought in as a freelancer. So typically a self-employed person. And you will always pay self-employed people more than you will someone who is directly employed. And I would say that if you want someone that is sustainable and going to stay with you for the long term, you've got to have them employed, because they need that job security. The reason why a freelancer will charge you more per hour is because they don't get all of the benefits that come with in full employed status. They don't get the sick pay or the notice period or any of that stuff. So they need to mitigate that, and that's completely understandable. I'd probably do the same if I was in their position. But I think the administrator is such a key function within a business that getting that individual right is really, really important. And I would always look for them to be as invested in the business, in that it's their job. They are directly employed. They have a contract. Yes, there is absolutely the element of performance-related pay and initiatives in there as well. And I would perhaps link that back to the overall size of the business. Help me get the business to 800 members. There's an extra £2,000 a year in it for you, or something like that. Can certainly lead towards greater success, I would say. And pay rates need not be extortionate. There is certainly a market out there around the 15 to 20 hours a week spectrum. So there's definitely space for admins to be on 15 to 20 hours a week and be able to do a good, reliable job for you within that. So whilst I appreciate how tempting it is to go, sod it, I'll just do it myself, it's certainly not something that I would encourage as something to enable growth in the future.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's just, it's not like I want to do it. I do want to give it over to somebody else, but it's feeling safe that I'm not going to have to keep picking up from where somebody else has left, because that's hard in itself, isn't it? Every time somebody joins you, there's a little bit of, things get lost a little bit at the beginning. And then when you've got to pick up after somebody, things do get a little bit lost in that part as well. And that brings with it its own little bit of sort of stress, doesn't it? And worry about keeping clients, customers happy. So, yeah, I know you're right. I imagine this is just the same as adopting the monthly system. I'm just having the same doubts in a slightly different format.
Most definitely. Any change is difficult and requires a kind of change in mindset, which is often not straightforward to get to. I think the most important bit of advice I can give when you're at the stage where actually you don't have an administrator and you're looking at getting one is spend more time than you think you need recruiting someone and creating that process and that structure for them to fall into, so that when you put your job advert out, it's for a role that is guaranteed to be what it says on the tin. Because the easiest way to lose somebody, particularly in an administrative role, is for them to come in and realise that it's different to what they thought they were signing up to.
I think that's what's happened. I think that's what's happened on all three occasions, because all three people I had in, Nicola, the other two, Leanne and Cecile, they've all been brilliant. And I feel like I've missed something along the way on reflection with what I said it was and what it's turning out to be. And I suppose because I will dart, I will do this, I will do that, I'll do something else. And that's the way I've got it all up and going and running, is by making sure to just cover everything. Other people don't want to jump around to the same extent I would. I'm almost like ADHD on speed when I'm getting going.
and I think that is actually a really excellent point. And I think a lot of what holds people back is that, in order to get from nothing to where you are now, you've had to do that. That is almost a necessary part of being that one-man band, covering all the bases, being a jack of all trades, and getting the business off the ground. But once you get to the size and scale that you're at now, and I think quite a lot of others kind of get to, it's a case of going, well, I can't, there's too much for me to dart around now. And I think actually a really excellent point, and something that's really difficult to process is the way that you work actually holding this back?
It most definitely is in this instance. Yeah. Because I, as much as I kind of unrealistically expect everybody to be like me, straight away we know it's a stupid statement.
We would all be very good swimmers.
Hey, I'm liking you even more. Yeah, it is unrealistic, isn't it? And I suppose that's where, I'm a little bit excited to go home tonight and start talking through some of these processes on the phone and getting it down, because I can see that is the way forward here, making this work.
I think actually the issue you're describing around your administrator is almost, it's actually a bigger issue than just getting a good administrator in and them sending some emails. It's actually around, how is your business structured? How is the organization structured?
Well, it's all too Lee-centric at the moment, isn't it?
Exactly that. It's ad hoc. It's, it, so you do it. And that's fine to a point. But the whole focus of the conversations that we have is around growth. How can we give you this stable platform with which we can look at getting you your second shipping container? So yeah, we want to really focus on giving you that time to branch out to those new activities of doing the scuba diving, getting your own second facility, really focusing in on those specialist niches that are going to be the next step for Swim School UK. But in order to do that, I always give the analogy, and it's slightly crude, but when you start out, it's kind of like a barnyard business, and everybody does a bit of everything to do whatever you are trying to do. And then as you grow, you can't operate in a barnyard anymore because you can't deal with the demand. The business evolves and grows over time, and you get to a point where you have to start going, okay, here's barnyard, here's corporate. I now need to be somewhere in that spectrum in terms of how I operate. And I think you're now at that point where we need to start looking at you as a business owner and go, how do I structure my week? Because I can't run around trying to cover every base and keep everything in my head, because actually that's not sustainable to take you to that next level. So we now need to, and it is an uncomfortable process. We need to challenge the way you work. Because if we can align the way you work to a structure, to a process, this is what I focus on, that's naturally going to leave you then with a little column next to it of, this is what my administrator, my right-hand person, is going to do for me. Once you've got those two things aligned and your administrator is working for someone who evidently has got structure to their working week, they know what they do, and then the administrator knows what's their job within that, you're starting to create that platform which then enables you to go out and do all of that stuff. Because I think, as you said at the start of the podcast, you're time poor. Time is not your friend. So we need to find ways to make that more efficient without it getting to the point where it's sort of Amazon-esque, because, that's probably a level of sort of process-driven nature that doesn't really align with providing children's activities. So it's finding your place in that, I think.
Yeah, I can see that.
So, it's just starting with that that process, just to kind of recap on the steps that I think you should take from here on out, is to look at what you do in a week. So like you said, transcribing that, just talking it out loud, getting that all written down on a page, and then boil that down to the exact tasks. And there's probably 5 or 6, maybe 7 or 8 a day that you do, and the rough amount of time you spend on them. And once you've done that for a couple of weeks, you'll get an idea on the consistencies within that list. And there'll be a bit of seasonal change. So you kind of want to build a bit of a buffer for that. But then once you've got that, and then you take the bits out of it that aren't inherently something that you need to do. You need to be really self-critical at that point, because it's very easy just to go, yeah, I need to do all of it.
Yeah.
Cool, done, exercise over, I just need to do all of it. That's the solution. It's not.
Getting started and up and running is a slightly egotistical thing in the first place, isn't it? Because I know it's all me, and I've got to make sure to do it all so I can do it all. To let go of that, to still explore, to let go of the bits. It's hard to let go of those bits.
I think particularly when you've built something from the ground up, letting go of any of it is your baby at the end of the day. You know, it is an extension of your family. You spend more time doing it than you do anything else. And you've built it from absolutely nothing to what it is now. So relinquishing that control, let me correct that actually. I don't see it as relinquishing control if you do it right. It's controlling things in a different way. And actually that's the way that I would encourage you to look at it, is not going, I'm giving away control to somebody else. It's going, how can I create a system of working for me and my team where I still maintain the same level of control?
This is making sense.
I don't have to do the same level of work.
Yes, this is making sense. And it is about that. And that's where the clarity of what somebody else is going to come in and do. I see what you're telling me. Creating that clarity of what somebody else is going to do means I feel safe that they know what they're doing, because I've already structured it and put it there for them.
Exactly that. And I think there's an element, and out of context, this sounds somewhat draconian, but certainly to begin with, for someone coming in an administrative role, they don't really want to be having too much independent thought. They want a set list of processes.
You know what you've just said there is what I found hard to understand. How can somebody not see, well, you need to adapt over here now. Right, now you need to jump over there to get that bit. Oh, right, now it all fits together.
That, for me, is when you've got an administrator that's been with you for 5 years or 4 years and been with you on the journey.
Far down the line.
When the actual core... So imagine the place you were at when you first started. The core fundamentals you were still figuring out and still learning. You're now at a point where all of those are second nature. It's almost as comfortable as breathing or probably swimming to you, where you don't have to think about it, you just do it. Someone new coming in, they've got to think about every single little bit that they've got to do.
Just like me getting used to the system, to the LoveAdmin system for the first time.
Exactly. The same as when you make any change, you've got to relearn those fundamentals again. And starting a new job is inherently scary, I would say, regardless of what job that is, because it's new and you know roughly what you've got to do, but you don't know how to actually go and do it. So you've got to facilitate that in order to stop them from leaving within the first 6 months. Whereas if you jump to, okay, here's all the fundamentals, but also let's go do this and let's do this. What about this? What about this? What about this? Their head is just going to go, oh my God, I don't even know where to start. And now he wants my thoughts and I don't have any thoughts because I don't know what I'm doing. And this is all really scary. And this isn't what I thought it was.
You've just encapsulated there exactly what I do.
I don't think that's a unique issue that you've stumbled across there. I think that is quite a common thing, because
I need to operate like that, but I can't have the expectation that anybody else should operate like that.
Exactly. It's all about people working to their strengths, and you want an administrator to be calm, structured, and diligent. And if you can get someone that is those three things, probably with a little sprinkle of reliability on the top of it, then that gives you that platform. And it's around having people that are complementary to yourself. One of the worst mistakes any business can make is hiring people based on their similarity to you. You miss out on all the skills that you aren't particularly strong in. And your skill set as a business owner is about being passionate, about having energy, about working super, super hard and connecting with your customers. And that enables you to grow a business. But when you get to a scale of having 600 members like you do now and running sort of 50 classes a week or something, now you need a different skill set. And being able to acknowledge that you don't possess those skills and you don't have the time to learn those skills, and actually you shouldn't need to have those skills, is a really important mental step. And I think so much of what you're describing is down to your mindset and how you approach the issue and how you approach the business overall for the next stage of growth, aside from just getting an admin in who can answer some good emails.
Yeah.
It's about really getting back to that root cause. And I think once you can do that, suddenly everything will just start slowly to slot into place. You'll find that your working week is more structured and you're not answering emails at 11 o'clock at night, which inherently is the wrong thing to be doing. And I'm sure your partner would agree with me on that one.
You would.
and then suddenly you'll see you can focus on those things that really make a difference to the overall growth of the business. And to be honest, at the scale you're at now, you should always be thinking 3 months ahead.
Yeah. See, I've probably got about 4 people who applied last time for the admin role. And I'm thinking it might be useful if I can arrange appointments with them that would fit for you to maybe be there as well. Because I don't know that I can always, I think that's sort of something you've said where I don't want to pick somebody like me.
I think certainly having someone to coach you on, I would perhaps describe it as subjective interviewing, would be a good thing. But I also think it's really important for you to find your confidence in doing it solo as well, and being able to pick up, pulling out of an interview, what are their character traits, what do they actually enjoy, and what are they just saying because they want a job. And that's a really crucial difference, because people will say a broad variety of things if it means they get a job at the end of it, particularly if the actual job description is a bit vague and woolly, because they don't quite know what they're getting themselves into. That they need money because they need to live. They've applied to the job because the pay rate looks pretty good and the hours kind of works for their life. But actually, neither party really knows what they want to get out of that situation. From an interview point of view, as the interviewer, going in with a really clear list of these are the character traits that I'm looking for. And I don't include experience as one of those character traits, because experience can actually count against you in some cases, because experience means that someone's already got a fixed way that they like to do something. Whereas if you can get someone in who's got the right character traits of being religiously diligent, very reliable, great attention to detail, but has never been an administrator before, but likes the challenge, likes the job, likes your organization, they're going to be far better at working in the way that you want them to, working with you, learning from you, than someone who's been an administrator for 30 years and goes, nope, it needs to be like this. Because actually you want to find that blend of structural change and getting someone with a different skill set to yourself.
Yeah.
But getting someone who you can actually work with and get aligned into the culture and the values of Swim School UK. So it's finding that middle ground, I would say. But certainly the starting point is making sure that your job description, what you actually want these people to do, is very, very clear. Then that makes the interview process easier because they know what they're letting themselves in for. Then get your list. What character traits, what type of person am I looking for? And is this person that type of person?
Yeah, that all rings true.
And I think all of that will help you get the right person. But the one thing I would insist more than anything else, do the pre-work before you do the interviews.
Yeah. I can see the importance.
Because if you're still working in the same way, you're going to get the same result every single time. Because you're going to continue working as if you don't have an admin that you can trust. When you've got an admin in there who is craving your trust.
It's a great point.
So things will never change until the entire setup changes, I would say.
Brilliant.
So I think that for me encapsulates really the key issue, and I think a lot of organisations will face a similar issue to that. So hopefully that's been useful in kind of guiding your next steps there, and I'm really excited to see how we can implement that. And I'll come up for my very own scuba diving lesson once you get it set up. Once your admin situation's all running smoothly as well.
Sounds fantastic. Thank you, James.
Amazing. Well, thank you very much for your time, Lee. Been great to discuss that with you for what is quite a difficult thing to work through, because actually it involves changing the way you work and really getting to the root cause rather than just kind of looking at why is my admin not working for me. I hope you enjoyed the episode. We look forward to you joining us next time. Make sure you subscribe to our Steps2Success podcasts to get more guided growth tips each month. And be sure to check out loveadmin.com/step2success for more information about our one-to-one growth consultation service and how you can get involved. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.